Gentlemen, I believe this form of emotional manipulation is what the autistic youth are calling Riz. Name him something strong, intimidating, Polish. I was able to lubricate and shove an entirely new lance into our inventory. The extreme satisfaction I extract from this simple mechanic is almost certainly diagnostic for some form of autism. But that's beside the point. You may be familiar with the scientific phenomena where every species is slowly evolving into crabs. Well, based on this, I'd say that every crab is slowly evolving into a trebuchet. Trees are alive, and they have feelings. You know what doesn't have feelings? Rocks. Eventually, we managed to send Hellman to the retirement home in the sky when Grom broke every bone in his body by hitting him with a car. By wearing a suit made of human skin, everyone can be happy. I get to be a robot, the algorithm gets its daily supply of human faces, and you get early onset dementia from watching my videos. You see, my brain is powered by a single Nigerian man running on a hamster wheel, and I fear that managing this army may in fact result in his death. This man may look like a human, but don't be deceived by his appearance. He's actually Australian, because it's not gay to be pounded by 5 men unless you moan. If you rearrange the letters in carcinoma, you can very quickly spell macaroni, and being covered in macaroni hardly sounds like a medical emergency. Some people are mentally ill, and they like to punish themselves by driving nails through their testicles. Chose the melee class, primarily because it gives you a damage buff for engaging in cannibalism. Following this, we were given a quest by a decapitated head, which my psychiatrist assures me is not normal. Our survival plan relies on stealing other people's genetics and gifting them stage 4 cancer. I'd like to say it is very difficult to kill a ghost with a catapult, but not impossible. Half of us will be dead, and the other half will be cannibals. I've accidentally landed on a ramen noodle factory and massacred all of their top employees. Beating him up was starting to feel like beating up someone with cerebral palsy, and as I'm sure you know, after a few minutes, that experience becomes very unrewarding. Can I refine this pile of feces into valuable wine? These are the crystallized souls that we have harvested from the vagrants who used to live in this little tent village. I didn't want to tell you about this earlier because it kind of makes me seem like a bad guy. In this judgmental and materialistic world, it's not enough to be tall. You have to actively be anti-short because they don't get very hungry and they have the best Rule 34. I won't lie, my psychosexual need to dominate the poor is very strong, but my compulsion to draw with their blood is even stronger. We had single-handedly reduced local unemployment by 100% by simply killing the jobless. Truly, my approval ratings are at an all-time high. I try not to look at them too much because those tentacles make me act up. The diplomat arrived and he needed a room to stay in, so I gave him our penthouse suite. Technically, there is a dead body in the bed, but I'm really banking on him not noticing that. For burning his capital city to the ground and Fortnite dancing on the ashes. Buy these products or I will show up at your house completely naked. Except for the kitchen knives I will have duct taped to my fists. Is that a threat? No, Your Honor, it is a guarantee of physical violence. But it's okay, because I always come prepared with a plan C. We spent 5 turns converting the entire population of Fort Stragov directly into food. The legality of this maneuver is up for debate, but when you physically consume the victim, witnesses, and all evidence of a crime, I think you're in the clear. Fighting the Wood Elves is a lot like fighting the Viet Cong. You are going to be shot by people you can't see, develop a rational fear of trees, and then experience PTSD for the rest of your life. You might be concerned about the structural integrity of this design, but I'd like to reassure you that I have absolutely no qualifications to be doing this, and I do not care if literally everyone here dies. Much like a small child doing battle against a steamroller, the Dark Elf military was flattened. Poor people, what can we do with them? I've got an idea. Maybe life's hardships are the necessary contrast which enables us to enjoy our successes, and without that we're just effortlessly shambling from one day to the next in an unfulfilling malaise. Nah, that's definitely not it. This didn't upset me as much as it caused me to fly into a blind rage and immediately begin building the most immoral army possible in an effort to punish the world for my misfortune. By the end of it, I had personally slaughtered 10,079 people just to get to the dwarves. If I was a dwarf, I would be mildly concerned by that statistic. Fighting a wood elf in the forest is like fighting an Italian in a spaghetti factory. Thousands of years of evolution have rendered them perfectly optimized for combat in that environment, so they're still fairly dangerous. Lockheed Martin wants to purchase copper ore so they can build fighter jets and bomb third world countries. I do not have morals. They became violently offended by the number of teeth in your mouth, and they're going to rectify that with a lead pipe. It is time to break several international treaties by ingesting our enemies. It's around this time people you don't know will start paying you extortion money you didn't ask for. Reaping the souls of the poor to wield occult powers is and always has been the foundation of every world government. I mean, think about it. It's been how many thousand years and we still haven't solved homelessness? It's a goddamn soul farm and no one's asking questions. This man looks like a child, and as it turns out, he has roughly the same combat effectiveness because when I shot him with a cannon, he stopped moving. Killing your competition is a viable business strategy. This is but a fraction of the power you can unlock by becoming senile. Obviously, I didn't even think about this, and I just started stealing everything I could. Honestly, it was very enjoyable, and not just because there were thousands of muscular men whipping me. Friedrich Nietzsche famously proclaimed, "God is dead." But he had syphilis in his brain, so what the fuck does he know? Decapitate your enemies and sell their body parts to horrified traders. I was in a bit of a rush, so instead of letting him finish his speech, I just ran up and punched him in the head. I have to tell you something, and you're going to listen. I like to use my disc plate as a ballistic shield. Legally, that's not a suggestion, just a personal preference. The first thing I saw was a wood elf, and before I could think, my reflexes kicked in, causing me to declare war. That's when I took the biggest black pill of all, and realized the key to getting the girl of your dreams is not to improve yourself, but rather to make her worse. In response, I sent a delegation of Bulgarians to remind the vampires that I hate them. We opened a butchery where I took the goblins from earlier, processed them into sausages, and used the diplomacy screen to send them back to their home kingdom as a gift. Maybe then we wouldn't have to share the same life expectancy as the main character of a live leak video. Everyone is my friend, and my love language is acts of violence. This is basically the medieval equivalent of drone striking our enemies, and I absolutely love it. I also started using a couple ballistae for one reason and one reason alone. This tooltip says they're manned by children. Using the auto battler is a lot like smoking crystal meth out of the barrel of a loaded shotgun. It's convenient and exciting, but sometimes just not worth the risk. Fighting wood elves is a lot like fighting children. You can't just rush into the kindergarten winging haymakers. It's not tactical, it lacks nuance. In my experience, you'll find a lot more success luring them into the parking lot where you can ambush them with your friends. So that's exactly what we did to the wood elves. It was a social faux pas on par with pouring lubricant on a wheelchair ramp. Men want to be him, women want to be with him, and today, I am him. Jesus Christ, even the vampires are French. As you can see here, Grom is starving, obviously, and instead I focused on corralling my enemies into a tight formation for a group photo. Except instead of a camera, I was using a loaded grenade launcher, a severed foot submerged in a vial of semen, a pie. Being this far underground is a lot like swallowing pills you find on the sidewalk. It's very dangerous, but also potentially very rewarding.